Today's video is sponsored by Squarespace. Whoa! Look at all the countries going carbon neutral in the near future. And almost nowhere will you be allowed to buy a petrol vehicle past the 2030s. But this does present some problems. We seem to be leaning pretty heavily on lithium when it comes to the future of energy. And considering lithium is a soft metal with less than stellar structural properties, many eminent persons have questioned the wisdom of this move. But seriously, how much lithium do we need to do everything? Electric vehicles, grid-scale storage, Internet of Things, etc. We're about to do an unnecessarily deep dive into this metal, its chemistry, and the way it will lead us into the future. So get comfortable, make coffee, tea, whatever works for you, and I'll see you on the other side of the title screen. I really like Wärtsilä. Their website has an interactive map that shows how a country or region could go 100% renewable. Based on the latitude and geography, there are different mixes of solar, wind, hydropower, and battery storage. But renewable energy enthusiasts like you and me know that solar and wind have a dirty secret. You also need to have flexible natural gas plants to power the grid during times of low production. Among the many countries that have committed to carbon neutrality in the midterm future is Germany. They have set an ambitious timeline of 2045 for this transition. How much battery storage would they need in order to accomplish this? Based on this graph, 3 hours of average electricity consumption would need to be stored away for use during scarce times. In 2020, they produced 600 terawatt-hours of energy. So averaging that out over the year and assuming 3 hours of backup, that would be around 200 gigawatt-hours, or the batteries of 2.5 million Tesla Model 3s combined. That's pretty crazy, right? But not as crazy as the value you get from our sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace gives you a powerful and beautiful online platform from which to create your website, connect with your audience, and generate revenue. Create a community on your Squarespace website with a fully integrated commenting system that supports threaded comments, replies, and likes. Use their powerful blogging tools to categorize, share, and schedule your posts too. Extend Squarespace's already powerful e-commerce capabilities with Squarespace extensions. These new third-party tools can help you manage inventory, promote products, streamline bookkeeping, reconcile and file sales tax, and ship items across the globe. You can display posts from your social profiles on your website. Go to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/techforluddites and get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Now, it's a slightly different situation everywhere, but Germany is not unique. Most places will need a good chunk of their electricity stored in batteries. So let's assume the differences even out and extrapolate this number to the world. When you fill in the numbers, this is what you get. 102 million Tesla Model 3 equivalents would be needed to decarbonize the entire world's grid. Leaving aside any kind of rigorous analysis, this sort of sounds manageable. But remember, that's only the case if we continue using gas power plants, and not just a few of them. Looking again at Germany, you need to build enough of them to cover 59% of the peak load, though their overall contribution to the grid will be a lot smaller. Now, natural gas plants are cheaper to build, more responsive, and better for the environment than coal, emitting only half as much carbon dioxide. That is why they're supposed to work really well with solar and wind, a bridge fuel to tide us over until we build up renewable capacity. Unfortunately, recent discoveries seem to suggest that the benefits of natural gas may have been overstated. Scientists found that up to 2% of methane extracted from energy production leaked into the atmosphere. And since methane is 90 times more potent at trapping heat than carbon dioxide, this is really bad. We'll eventually need to phase it out, and sooner rather than later. Without flexible gas in the mix, we need 10 times more batteries in the case of Germany. In general, at least 3 full days of battery storage is required if we are to quit fossil fuels for good. Meaning we'd need batteries equivalent to 2.5 billion Tesla Model 3s. That is a sobering thought and does not seem all that plausible anymore. But let's plow ahead in our search for a single number. How much lithium is required for that scale of energy storage? This is a periodic table. As you can see, lithium is the first and lightest solid element. Its atomic weight is 7. Lithium has 3 electrons to balance out its 3 protons. The electrons in the outermost shell of an element are the ones that move around and participate in chemical reactions and such. So, for the price of 7 atomic mass units, you get 1 unit of charge. If you go for any other alkali metal in this column, the deal just gets worse and worse and worse. Because the lighter the scaffolding around your mobile charge carrier, the higher your specific energy. And the lighter your battery can be for a given amount of storage. Now, some of you might have noticed that using the same logic, beryllium has 2 electrons for 9 atomic mass units, which means 1 electron for every 4.5 units. So, why don't we use beryllium-ion batteries? Because there is 9 times as much lithium on Earth's crust as beryllium. And the latter is consequently much more expensive. And also, on a more basic level, lithium has one of the lowest standard electrode potentials. That means you can get a battery with higher voltage. Higher voltage allows fewer resistance losses, leading to a more efficient battery. Same reason why we transmit electricity over high voltage transmission lines. It also allows for better power density, faster charging, and all the good stuff. Back to the math. One lithium atom has 1 electron to work with. Each electron has minus 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulombs of charge. 6.941 grams of lithium contains 6.022 into 10 to the power 23 atoms. Avogadro's number, if you guys remember moles and stuff from school. The voltage of a lithium battery is 4.15 volts. Multiplying the charge on 1 electron by the number of electrons available in 6.941 grams, or 1 mole of lithium, gives us the total charge. Multiplying this by the voltage gives us the energy required to move that charge through the given voltage. This comes to 400,360 joules, or 0.11 kilowatt hours. Extrapolating from here, for 1 kilowatt hour of energy storage, you need 62.41 grams of lithium. Of course, you don't have 100% efficiency. All the lithium ions don't go over to the anode while charging. So this ends up closer to 130 grams of lithium per kilowatt hour. Now, we just multiply this by the total storage required in kilowatt hours, and we have our answer: 25 million tons of lithium. We currently mine 80,000 tons of lithium every year. At our current rate of extraction, it would take us 321 years to mine enough lithium to run the world on renewables and batteries. And let's not forget, we need to decarbonize the transport sector too. The projection is by 2050, there will be 3 billion cars in the world. Average battery capacity being 45 kilowatt hours, meaning that's another 70 million tons of lithium that we need to get out of the ground. 42 million tons of lithium. That's way too much, right? If you look at this figure, then you'd say we have just about 20 million tons or so. But Chile is just one part of the region called the Lithium Triangle. The other 2 countries, Bolivia and Argentina, have 38 million tons between them. But the Uyuni salt flats in Bolivia have a humid environment, which complicates the extraction of lithium carbonate through evaporation. And the lithium salts there happen to be mixed in with magnesium, which has very similar chemical properties, making it harder to separate. All these factors will make it more expensive to extract than the lithium in Chile and Australia. And price is really important when it comes to how much lithium is actually available. China started scaling back some of the subsidies it had put in place for electric vehicles. The incentive for buyers was less, so manufacturers produced less cars. There was consequently less demand for lithium, and thus prices dropped. The people extracting lithium didn't want to mine more lithium because they wouldn't be able to sell it at a good price. Hence, production also dropped. If we want EVs and renewables to be dominant in society, then we need to greatly scale up the mining of lithium. But this heightened demand for lithium means lithium will get more expensive, and in turn make EVs more expensive. Lithium carbonate costs about $10 per kg. 18% of that is lithium, so that comes to around $55 for a kilogram of lithium, which comes to $7 per kilowatt hour of lithium-ion battery. Considering that material costs of lithium-ion batteries are at around $80 per kilowatt hour, that's not a huge part of the cost. The main component that affects the price of lithium-ion batteries is in fact cobalt, which is also the most expensive part of the battery per kilogram. Now let's talk about the environmental impact. Since our efforts to lithium-ion everything are geared towards reducing carbon dioxide emissions, let's take a holistic view of what we're trying to do. Extracting lithium, nickel, cobalt, manganese takes energy, and it takes energy to turn it into a battery pack. And energy usually implies carbon dioxide emissions. How much? According to this research paper, around 100 kilograms per kilowatt hour of battery capacity. So to cover all the batteries we need, we'll end up putting 20 billion tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Context: humanity currently puts 36 billion tons of carbon dioxide into the air every year. That seems like a reasonable price to pay. The other main factor is water. 500,000 gallons for a ton of lithium. The way lithium is extracted is that miners dig holes in the ground and pump the mineral-rich brine to the surface. This brine evaporates for months at a time. Then the mixture of potassium, manganese, borax, and lithium salts are filtered and left to dry again. Only after a year or so can the lithium carbonate finally be extracted. This seems innocent enough on the face of it, but there have been huge protests in Chile against the extraction of lithium. This is due to the fact that locals allege the pumping of brine lowers the amount of fresh water available in the area, reducing an already scarce resource. In Tibet, there were allegations that chemicals like hydrochloric acid used in the evaporation pools made their way into local water supply. But since this technique is the cheapest way to get lithium currently, it won't go away anytime soon. Because of the unpredictable environmental impacts and the speed at which we need to make the transition, there is a good argument to be made for diversifying our strategy to make progress on multiple fronts so that if one method has unforeseen obstacles, we can switch to another one. Carbon capture, nuclear power, thermal energy storage, flow batteries, all should be part of the strategy to combat emissions. The single most efficient approach may be tempting, but it also makes the world more fragile. It sometimes seems that every option we have to reduce carbon dioxide is fraught with new and unknown dangers. That our hope for a clean, sustainable future may lead us down a path to ruin. And it gets you thinking about the Fermi paradox. 10 billion galaxies, each with 100 billion stars. Trillions upon trillions of worlds. Thinking creatures must have arisen on one of those worlds at some point in the 13.8 billion years that the universe has been around. They must have. So why didn't they leave their homes? Why didn't they break past the limits of evolution and spread themselves among the stars? Could it be that our current predicament is only the latest in a cosmic drama that has played itself out millions of times? Do all civilizations discover hydrocarbons? Do they all burn through the carbon-hydrogen bond to create industrial behemoths to subjugate the world? Does the age of technology follow as inevitably for them as it did for us? And just as the age of information begins to lift the veil of ignorance, do the embers of the fire that illuminated the world begin a vicious dance? One that unrelentingly traps more and more of their star's energy with every passing year, where every effort to break free only tightens the vice. Maybe that's where all the civilizations go, to a hell of their own making, suffocated by the air their ancestors breathed for eons, the air that they unknowingly poisoned when grasping for eternity. And that's why the sky only glows with stars. No flashes of fusion engines piercing the large Magellanic Cloud. No light sails breaking in the sun's resplendence. The only way out of this desperate future may be a reverse enlightenment, a final relinquishing of ambition, of glory, of progress and curiosity. Perhaps those are the only civilizations that pass through the Great Warming Filter. Those who power down their machines and their terrible weapons, their towers of simulation and fantasy, and retreat back into nature, into the chaotic womb they left behind millennia ago, to forestall that terrible end and persist in everlasting dusk. A dark age until their stars turn to stone. Well, hopefully it doesn't come to that. Not really a fan of everlasting dusk. Very geared towards the day-night modality. Just personally speaking, in some ways it's quite reassuring that there's enough lithium, even if we decided to go crazy and put a battery in everything. But we have some of the best minds working on the problem of clean energy, storage, and generation, so it probably won't play out that way. And whenever there's even a hint of a solution, you can be sure that we'll be covering it here on our channel. So make sure you get subscribed. It might even be easy, you know. I, for one, still have faith that one of those UFO videos turns out to be the real thing. You know, resolving the Fermi paradox and letting us know that we can burn fossil fuels with no consequences for all time to come. But in the meantime, it's time to grab a shovel and start digging, or to acquire a pipe and start pumping. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring us this time. Like, share, subscribe, and start a conversation below to get more content like this in your recommendations. I'll see you really soon. Bye.